The rain had been falling for hours, drumming endlessly on the roof of Miller's diner like a warning no one wanted to hear inside. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting pale reflection. Over the faded checkered floor, the few customers kept their heads down, lost in their own worlds, but everything changed the moment an old woman stepped in, shaking, drenched and terrified. She wasn't just looking for food or warmth, she was looking for help, and the person she chose wasn't a police officer or a friendly neighbor or even the waitress she brushed past. She walked straight toward the tall, rough-looking biker sitting alone in the corner booth and did something no one expected. She flashed a quiet, subtle hand sign, one that only a trained eye or someone who had lived through darkness would recognize, and the biker froze, his heart pounding, because he understood exactly what that sign meant. Before we dive in, if you believe in kindness, in unseen struggles, and in second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps more than you know. The old woman's trembling hand dropped to her side as quickly as it had risen, but the damage, or the salvation, was already done. The biker, a man named Cole Maddox, felt the cold rush of adrenaline sweep through him. He had seen that sign before years ago, at a shelter he volunteered for while rebuilding his life. Victims of domestic abuse were taught that very same gesture. It was simple, palm open, thumb folded, fingers closed, a sign that silently begged for rescue, a sign used when the voice was stolen by fear. Cole didn't move right away. He watched her carefully, as if reading a language only the broken understood. Her thin shoulders trembled beneath a wet cardigan, and her eyes, wet and glassy, never once turned toward the man sitting 2 booths away, a man whose jaw clenched every time she breathed. Wrong. He was pretending to read a menu, but his gaze kept darting toward her with a coldness that made Cole's muscles tighten. Something was wrong, very wrong. The old woman slid into a booth, her back hunched, her fingers fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. Cole noticed faint bruises peeking from her wrists, old ones, layered over new ones like a history carved into her skin. He had seen too much in his life not to understand what those marks meant, and the man watching her there had to be the one who put them there. Cole shifted slightly enough to get a clear look at the man, mid-40s, thick shoulders, nervous movements, jaw constantly grinding, like someone ready to snap. A dangerous type, a controlling type. Cole had dealt with people like him before, when he was younger, angrier, and living a life that nearly destroyed him. But now all that old knowledge, that old anger, that old strength, it was suddenly useful again. He lifted his coffee cup, pretending to drink while discreetly observing that the old woman didn't touch her menu. Her eyes remained fixed on her lap, her breathing unsteady, her fingers wrapped so tightly around her bag strap that her knuckles turned white every few seconds. She glanced at Cole, quick, hidden flicks of her eyes checking if he had understood her silent cry. He had, and he wasn't going to ignore it. Cole placed his cup down slowly, deliberately. He stood, wiped his hands on his jacket, and walked toward her booth. Not directly, not suspiciously, but with a casual confidence that didn't draw attention. As he passed by, he dropped his keys on the floor loud enough to make her look up. In that moment, he leaned down, picked them up, and whispered so quietly that only she could hear, "I saw your sign, you're safe now." Her eyes widened, a tear fell, but she didn't wipe it away. She only nodded once, barely. The man watching her stiffened instantly, sensing the shift. Cole straightened and moved back toward his own booth, but his hand brushed the hidden chain wallet in his pocket, a habit from his biker days. It steadied him. He felt the old strength return. The man in the corner stood abruptly, slamming his menu down. He walked out of the diner without ordering anything, his steps uneven, like he was struggling with rage. Cole's instincts sharpened. The danger wasn't gone, it was waiting. Moments later, the old woman quietly collected her purse and rose from her seat, but as she passed Cole's table, her hand brushed his sleeve. "Another silent plea," she whispered. "Please, follow me home. I can't go in alone." Cole nodded. Once she walked out into the rain, her frail body swallowed by the storm. Cole followed at a distance, not enough to scare her, but enough to protect. The parking lot was nearly empty, the air thick with the smell of wet asphalt. Streetlights flickered in the wind. The old woman moved slowly, glancing over her shoulder, her breath visible in the cold night. Cole's boots splashed through puddles as he shadowed her, one hand on the keys of his motorcycle, the other on the small knife he carried for emergencies. But he didn't need to wait long. A dark sedan sat near the edge of the lot, engine running. The same man from the diner leaned against the side, smoking, watching her like a predator waiting for its prey to walk into the trap. Cole's jaw tightened. The old woman paused. When she saw him, her knees buckled slightly. She whispered, more to herself than anyone else, I knew he'd follow me. Cole stepped forward just enough for the man to notice. The smoker's eyes narrowed, recognizing Cole as the bike who had spoken to her. He spat on the ground, threw his cigarette and climbed into his car. The sedan engine growled loudly, then slowly rolled away, but not far. It parked across the street, headlights off, waiting. Cole swallowed hard. This wasn't just a domestic problem. This was something deeper. The old woman finally reached her small, worn-down house, the paint peeled from the walls, and the porch light flickered. Cole followed behind, stepping onto the porch, keeping his voice steady. He didn't want to scare her. Inside, the house smelled of lavender and old books, but beneath that was a faint tinge of something darker: fear, loneliness, and years of silence. She set her bag down, exhaled shakily, and finally turned to him fully. Her hands trembled. She told him her name was Evelyn Marsh. She didn't give him details at first, only fragments. Her only son, had changed over the years. Something inside him twisted, hardened. He controlled her finances, her medicine, her movements. Tonight, after she accidentally broke a glass, he had grabbed her, shoved her into a wall, and threatened her life. She escaped while he was drunk and distracted, running into the storm. Cole felt his fists clench. Memories he had tried to bury resurfaced. Nights when he himself had been in dark places, people who had saved him when he did deserve saving. He owed the world a debt, and perhaps this woman was the reason. Fate had brought him to that diner tonight. He told her she wasn't alone anymore. He meant it, but outside, the sedan's engine rumbled again. Cole looked through the worn curtains and saw the silhouette of the man sitting inside, just waiting. He wasn't going away. The storm intensified. Thunder echoed miles away. Evelyn trembled again, not from cold, but from the reality that danger was still outside her door. Cole stood firm. He told her to lock every window and turn off the lights. He stepped back onto the porch, his boots striking the soaked wood, and faced the dark sedan head-on. He wasn't armed, but he didn't need to be. Sometimes a man's presence said enough. The sedan slowly rolled forward, stopping just a few feet from the house. The window lowered, and the enraged son leaned out, yelling something incoherent, his words slurred with alcohol and rage. But Cole didn't budge. His broad frame stood like a shield. The sedan lurched, as if about to move closer, but then Cole stepped off the porch and walked straight toward it. He didn't shout, he didn't curse, he simply stared through the windshield with a look that carried decades of battles and redemption. The kind of look that warned, "You will not touch her." The sun froze. Fear flickered in his eyes. He slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching, and sped away into the night. But Cole knew this wasn't the end. He stayed with Evelyn for hours. They talked. She finally opened up, sharing everything she had endured, the loneliness, the guilt, the fear of her own child. Cole listened with patience and compassion. He helped her call someone she trusted, an old neighbor who promised to come in the morning. He brewed her tea, fixed her broken front door lock, and even cleaned the shattered glass from her living room floor. As the night deepened, Evelyn finally slept peacefully, safely for the first time in years outside. Cole sat on her porch, watching the street. The rain eased into a mist. The world grew quiet, and something unexpected happened inside him. He felt purpose again, not the kind that came from riding with a biker group, but the kind that came from protecting someone who had no one. Just before dawn, he heard footsteps, slow, hesitant. He looked up and saw Evelyn standing in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes soft and grateful. She whispered that no one had ever protected her like this, not even her late husband. She told him he had given her life back. Her voice broke when she said she had been afraid to ask anyone for help because she thought no one would believe her. Cole stood, walked to her, and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. He told her she didn't need to be afraid anymore. He would help her file charges. He would help her get a protective order. He would help her reclaim her freedom. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky with gold. Evelyn looked out at it and said she hadn't seen a sunrise without fear in years. And for Cole, something inside him healed too. If this story has touched your heart so far, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly keeps stories like this alive. Evelyn asked Cole one last thing before he left. She asked him what made him understand the hand sign so quickly. Cole hesitated at first, but then he told her the truth, how he had once been a man, headed down a dark road, how a stranger had saved him with compassion, and how he vowed he would do the same for others whenever life gave him the chance. Evelyn listened, Tears in her eyes, she said he was proof that broken people can still become protectors, that kindness can still be found in unexpected places. Cole smiled softly. He told her that strength wasn't about fists or fury, it was about standing between someone and the thing that tries to destroy them. Before leaving, he gave her a small card from a local biker charity group that helped vulnerable people. He told her she now had a whole community behind her. She reached out, squeezed his hand with surprise strength, and whispered, "You saved me." Cole shook his head. "No, ma'am, you saved yourself. I just answered when you called." He stepped off her porch, the rising sun warming his back, and walked to his motorcycle. He didn't look like a hero. He didn't need to. The road stretched before him, but so did a renewed sense of purpose. Evelyn watched him ride away, her heart full. The world felt safer, brighter, possible, and somewhere deep inside, she knew she would never be afraid again. Before the video ends, I want to ask you, would you comment below? Tell us how this story made you feel, or share a moment when kindness changed something in your life. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow and keeps these stories coming.